way you're working and what you're doing. So is there anyone from telecommunication industry? Great. Anyone from banking? Okay. Anyone from insurance? Media? Ah, great, thank you. So, now I'm gonna ask, how many of them are looking for a job? It's better to stand up and let know people that you're looking for a job. No, it's good. Oh, great, thanks. How many of them are looking to hire testers? Can you please stand? Okay, interesting. Okay, thank you. All right. Now what I have to do? Okay. I think I have to talk about Taro payments. Now, I really don't like to run through the slides, it just makes me a little, I don't find it really interesting. So what I would do is I will quickly run through the slides which I've got and give you some basic information. And I would really like to share my personal experience at Taro so that people can know what it is, how it is, and stuff like that. So we're so proud to be an independent FPOS provider. We're the one in Australia. And we do have a lot of payment solutions. And when I joined this, it's been 2.5 months for me. When I joined this, I had knowledge transfer for different products that we have. And there are a lot of, best solutions that they give for payment. And one of the amazing solutions is Medicare claims and rebates. And they also have pay at table and bar for restaurants and retail, merchants as well. So that is something we are doing. And how we compete with other big companies is we have 0-second outage. That is one of the main things that we have. And we also have zero data compromise, and of course with the low-cost development. So it's just to let you guys know that how we are actually competing with different banks. The first factor would be the speed and the integration that we have. It's really amazing to know. If you really want to know in detail about what we do, I would strongly recommend you guys to, go to our website and then watch all the videos, because it really excited me when I joined this company. So I request you guys to do that if you really want to know more about it. And then availability, it's 24/7, and then of course secure data, and then all the transactions are analyzed in real time. So these are some statistics which shows where we are now. And we started 2005, and this just shows you the statistics. Now, I want to talk about a special person at Taro Payments, which is Anne-Marie. I just want to, before that, I want to tell you my personal experience at Taro, okay? So when I joined this company, the first thing I noticed is no one is micromanaged. They have a self-disciplined team. They are really focused and innovative. And what they do is top managements really respect new ideas from talented young people, which is something really, really amazing that I find here. And of course, I should talk about the top management as well. And I would personally thank Andrew Rothwell and Vicky for being here after a very long day. This is something I really like about Taro. So you can really impress Taro if you really have new ideas and bring value to the business. So anyone interested, you should be really lucky to be at Taro. And now, reflecting to Anne-Marie, I would say that she is all over the place. I can't see a lady working from 9 to 5 in one place, and then she works in universities to give lectures, and she's a co-founder of Speakeasy, and she also do conference, speaking, and she's a great coach. She's a great mentor to have. And this will just list what she's done in her career, but I would say that she's a great leader, because I find a lot of difference between manager and, being a leader. I can call her really a great leader. And when I met her, it was a couple of months ago that I met her in a presentation, and it was one of my close friend who's a president of Sanitas Native. His name is Richard Robinson. I told Richard that, you know what, one day, I don't know when, I don't know how, I want to work with her. At least once in my lifetime, I should get an opportunity to work with her. She's such an inspiring lady. So I really try to inculcate a lot of qualities that she has, and hopefully, at least I have to be closer to her in, 5 years or so. And she is running a organization called Speakeasy. So it's a non-profit organization where all the famous testers desire to actually encourage women testers to speak at the conference. So they completely mentor you, they help you choose your topic, and then they empower women. So anybody here who want to really talk at the conference, please reach out to me. I'll be able to give more details. And Anne-Marie and Fiona Charles are co-founders for this. There is a conference which is coming in Sydney, so it should be late November or early December. So if anyone thinks that I already have talent and I want to talk at a conference, please feel free to send your papers to us, and you can just go online and then send your call for proposal. So I would ask you guys to join your hands to encourage Anne-Marie to come here and give us a talk. Thank you.
Not sure what to say after that. Thanks, Deepika. Just one thing about the QCUP Australia is we're actually, Speakeasy has aligned with QCUP Australia, so even if you've never spoken before and you think that you might have something to say, you're not quite sure, but I think I might, and secretly you have an inner desire to share knowledge, really encourage you to go to the Speakeasy website, sign up for a mentor. We've got some amazing mentors out there. Lisa Crispin is one of them, James Bach, lots and lots of well-known testers who are willing to spend time with you and help you work through your ideas, and also to help you put together a presentation. And if they're close to you, they'll also help you with a bit of practice as well. So really, this is an absolutely fantastic initiative. Since we started in the start of January, we've had about 40 testers and mentors around the world matched up. And we've had at CAST conference in the US, we've got 5. They actually had 1 spot allocated for a Speakeasy Speakeasy speaker, and they ended up taking 5 of the speakers who had never spoken before at a major conference. So you can just see, just with a little bit of help, you might yourself have something really that you want to say. So I really encourage you to sign up to that. Okay, enough of that. I need to go on to mine.
Anybody who's for discussion group, I would probably ask you guys to go there, because we have set a meeting room for the discussion group. No one? Good.
Okay, let's get going. So I'm going to talk today about earning a testing reputation. And I think this is something very close to my heart because, regardless whether we like it or not, we've all got a reputation. It might not be a good reputation, but we actually have it. And I think it's really important for testers to be able to understand that, because our reputation so much takes us to where we want to be. For example, Taro wants to sponsor the Sydney Testers Meetup because they have a reputation for quality, but also they want to be perceived as having a reputation for quality. So they align themselves with organisations like the Sydney Testers Meetup to enable themselves to help promote the fact that they care about quality. And I think that we as testers, we need to kind of do things similarly. Whoops. So today I'm going to share with you not one, not two, but three, yes folks, 3 tips on how to earn a testing reputation. So without further ado, we'll go into tip 1. And basically this is thanks to Banksy. I love Banksy. The point that I'm trying to make with this slide is what actually is, how do you perceive yourself? How authentic are you? Do you know exactly what you are looking for? What does success mean to you? Maybe you're a tester, maybe you want to be the best tester in the world. I know that James Bach's goal is to be the best tester in the world. And that's a pretty tall goal, but he's determined to be that. So for yourself, what's your goal? Where do you want to be? Maybe it's to be a test manager, or to be a consultant, or maybe you'd like to speak. Maybe you want to, there are many, many ways that you can have success, but until you know exactly what that success is, it's very hard to be authentic and to understand that, unless you understand what is inside, people are going to pick up on that. And you need to be authentic because people pick up on fakeness all the time, right? And if you want to have a reputation and you try and be something that you're not, people can see it just like that. So be authentic, be yourself. Whose reputation? Are you trying to mimic yourself on somebody else? Because it's really quite interesting how you perceive yourself. I've got this story about this occasion. I was at a conference, and I've always seen myself as, like it or not, I've always seen myself as this kind of Joan of Arc type tester. I'm the champion of testing. I'm there with my sword, waving it up in the air. I've got great ideas. I'm really changing the testing community. And then I went to this conference, and this famous tester came up to me and he said, Anne-Marie, I really enjoy talking to you because I don't feel threatened by what you say. And I was like, oh wow, how I perceive myself and how others perceive me is really, really different. And I learned something a lot from that day. I still haven't forgiven that tester yet. But it made me realize that just because I feel I'm powerful and strong inside doesn't necessarily mean that's how people see me. And I need to be aware of that. Okay, so be yourself. Be authentic. Tip number 2. Now, some of you might have filled out a sticker that asks what makes a good tester. Did anyone have a chance to think about that? Silence. One person. Excellent. This is going to be fun. All right. What does make a good tester? Anyone got any ideas?
Inquisitiveness.
Inquisitiveness. Okay. Anyone else? Customer satisfaction. Nice. Yeah. Andrew. Helps to break things. There we go. Yes. Yep. That's quite. Anyone else?
Good communicator.
Good communicator. Yeah. It's like, sorry?
Interest and willing to learn new things.
Willing to learn new things. Yeah. Sorry, what was that? Be patient. Patience. Why do you need patience?
Well, sometimes you just do something that people say, you want to make waves, but slowly, so to get your way.
Ah, very clever. Sorry, yep.
With domain knowledge.
Pardon?
Good domain knowledge.
Good domain knowledge. Okay, good. Another hand there, yep. Sorry, you have to speak up a bit, Dan. Can someone... Desire for perfection. Wow. Gosh, I don't know if I want to work close to you. Desire for perfection, maybe not be perfect. Yeah, big difference. I agree. I agree.
I think it's very important to really love what you do.
To love what you do. And I hadn't thought of that one. I'll have to add that to my list. Sorry, Praveen, you in?
Attention to detail.
Attention to detail, yes. And I'll take one more. Sorry.
Know how to direct people to disagree with your ideas.
Know how to direct people to disagree with your ideas.
With their ideas.
With their ideas.
When you argue with someone,
Yeah.
but instead of trying to make your point, try to direct them to understand your point, but by disagreeing themselves.
Ah, okay, so do you get them to disagree with themselves? Have you studied MVP or something? Right, well, your list was amazing because I only have some of these, but sorry to be kind of rude, but I wanted to put some of the factors, and I think you can classify roughly, I'm sure there's more classifications if we thought about it, but I'm thinking about 3 different areas that you could kind of classify things. One is a tester's skill, right? How skilled that tester is. But also there is some sort of traits where are kind of a bit murky. You know, are they traits, are they skills? Sometimes it's hard to quantify whether, you know, that's something that you're innately born with, like curiosity maybe. You know, is that a skill or a trait? I won't get into a philosophical argument about that tonight. But also, I think by what they do. We're known by what we do, right? And so I want tonight to spend a little bit of time focusing on what we do and the skill that we have associated with what we do. All right, test strategy. Who here knows what a test strategy is? 1 person, 2 people, wow. I'm going to suspect that everyone else here didn't bother putting their hand up because it's such a silly question, okay? A test strategy, designing your approach, right? Something that should be the core of any tester, right? We all have to think about how are we going to test something? What is our approach? What are our considerations? Test design, right? The test that we actually create. These are the things that we as testers do every day, right? We create tests. Bug reports, all right? Often we're defined by our bug reports. If we're a type of tester that actually puts bug reports into a system, into a defect tracking system, a bug reporting system, really how you write a bug report defines how people perceive you. Think about that. I mean, next time you write, it should work, right? Certification. Now, some people really believe strongly about certification. And it defines, well, I really don't know what a tester does, so I'm going to ask for a certified tester because I'll know then that makes a good tester, right? Not something I personally agree with, but I know some people think that. Attention to detail. I got one there. Yes, a lot of things you ask what makes a good tester. Is that sort of elusive ability, isn't it? I mean, try and define what does attention to detail actually mean? That elusive ability to observe things that no one else appears to be able to observe. Technical understanding. So, interesting, nobody actually brought that up, but that having that ability to look at complex systems and not be frightened by them. Now, whether that's an automated thing, or whether that's just understanding a data model, or whether understanding large complex systems, I think, you know, in these days, often we're asked more and more to investigate the technical side and not be afraid to stick our hands into the technical detail. And as I mentioned before, curiosity. You know, it's a hard thing, but if you're naturally curious, it makes it a lot easier to kind of go and open up the lid to find out what's inside, right? Because we just want to know. And I think a test process. Now, I was brought up with the IEEE 829, and hopefully most of you don't know what that means. The IEEE 829 is basically a standard for test documentation and defines what your test, that you should have a test strategy, you should have test cases. It defines your external process. I'm not really talking about that here. I'm talking about your internal test process. How do you test? What defines your testing? What are the things that you do that no one else really sees that makes you decide what makes a good test and what a bad test? Are you aware that you have a testing process? Because everyone does, right? And maybe there's external bits you can identify it with an external process, but we all have an internal process. But I want to know what makes a brilliant tester, because that's what I'm interested in. I want brilliance. I want to have a reputation of being a brilliant tester. I don't know. Maybe it's something that I aspire for perfection, I'm not sure. But that, for me, that's what interests me. So let's have a look at and see what we can do about that. Let's look at the test strategy that we make. What are those skills? If you think about it a little bit, it's about analysis. We have to model the system. We have to understand the system in order to be able to understand what to test. We also have to make decisions. Testing is constantly about making decisions about what shall I leave out? What shall I leave in? What can I test? What I don't have time to test? There's a constant reevaluation of those decisions that we have to do in defining our test strategy. But if we also look at test design, what actually is test design? Have you ever thought about that? Test design. I try and put it into 4 sort of things. If you think about what a test makes, you've got to configure a test, right? Then you've got to operate those tests. And then you've got to observe the results. But you can't leave it there. The final thing is you've got to evaluate that information that you've done from creating that test. Is that information useful? Is that information not useful to my stakeholders? And so when you're in your test design, what makes a good test? What makes a bad test? Lots of decision making in that too, right? And then we've got reporting, obviously bug reporting, but I like what somebody brought up about communication. Communication is such a vital part of being a great tester, being a brilliant tester. Because communication, but testing without stakeholders doesn't give us much. It's about how we share that information with other people that really, really matters. And so communication is not necessarily about being able to only convey the information, but it's about being able to understand who you need to convey that information to. Am I talking to the right people that matter? Do I understand what they really want? Have I taken time to listen to them and really include that into my testing? And all this makes up a brilliant tester. We must learn to become great listeners, right? And to understand our stakeholders. Okay. A lot of all this comes together. There's one factor under all of this that I think is essential to any tester. And it's all that thing about observation, evaluation, decision making. And I kind of loosely put this all into critical thinking. And I think critical thinking for a tester helps us to elevate our skill from a really okay, good tester to a brilliant tester. Understanding what critical thinking is and how we can apply it to our testing. So, what is critical thinking? Oh God, I hope she wasn't going to ask me that. All right, so I'm going to help you out a little bit because I really like this analogy. This guy called Bernard Baruch, he basically made this observation. He says, millions of people saw the apple fall, but Newton was the only one to ask why. And I think that's a really good example of someone who's thinking critically. Something that everyone sees every day and assumes, well, that just happens because it happens. But that one person who went, well, why is that happening? What is it that's making the apple fall? And so we can look at critical thinking. And I like this definition because if you actually go onto the website, if you go onto the internet and try and discover what critical thinking is, it's like an absolute mesh of, I don't know, you could spend days trying to understand critical thinking and still not really understand what it means, which is why I really like Michael Bowden's definition, which is thinking about thinking so you don't get fooled. Now you have to think about that a little bit. so I don't fool you. But I'm going to help you out just a little bit because we don't really have a lot of time. How we might be fooled in testing. Lots of ways we can be fooled, right? But when we assume that we take stories for granted. Well, this is what the business wants, so therefore it must be good, right? Right, nice one. What about that if we use one set of test data? Obviously it works, right? I put in my surname and then the login works. Hey, that must be good. We run the test once. Who's to say that running the test wasn't just a fluke? Yeah, have you thought about that? We look at a screen, a GUI. A lot of us do GUI testing these days. In fact, I'd say the majority of us do GUI testing these days. But what makes that screen that says okay, really okay? How do we know it's okay? Is it maybe the okay button's wrong? Or the okay screen's wrong? You know, are we taking our information, the data that we see at face value, are we taking that for granted? We can get fooled in lots and lots of different ways. If we test in isolation, we don't integrate the systems. If we test in a test environment, the classic, we laugh at developers, of course, when we go, well, it works on my machine. But, you know, we do that too, right? Okay, move on. So, you know, I actually fall into a lot of these. You know, I actually fall into these traps myself, and, you know, I feel like a little silly when I do it because I really should know better. I have been testing for a long, long time. So that's why I really like this heuristic. And I call it the James Bach, really, so, heuristic. And tonight I'm going to actually take you through this to help you understand a little bit how you could apply this heuristic into your testing. So, what is really? So, basically reminds me to go, do I understand what that person is saying? So for example, if I'm listening to a story, if I'm reading a story, do I really understand what that story means? Or am I making assumptions about the content of that story? Right? What, do I really understand before I test? Really? Really reminds me to ask the question, how do I know? How do I know it works? How do I know what I see is really true? How do I know that I've tested properly? Really is a really important question for a tester. And so, finally, so reminds me to ask the question, does it matter? You know, after I've done all my critical thinking and I've got my test result, is this important? Is it important enough for me to jump up and down and get someone else to make it a change? And so reminds me that evaluation and information sharing is just as important part of critical thinking. So, look, that's a James Bachism. But I thought what might be a little bit fun, you've all got cards on your seats, or you should have. And what I want you to do is I want you to look at this really good user story. And I want you to apply the really, so heuristic and see if you can come up with a few questions that you might want to ask your stakeholders or developers or business people about this user story. To give about 5 minutes, I don't think we need to spend too much time. You can also get into groups if you want to brainstorm a little bit. Always helps, I find.
Just stop it. Stop it for a while and we'll do another round.
If you want to stop it, yeah, stop it.
Can you verify the difference for a bank and for a industrial site?